Fellows, we've been at this for about an hour and 37 minutes, which is a little longer than I had anticipated, but it's a big budget, and it's worth every question to be asked. And I just want to start by thanking you guys for what you're doing. I mean, the truth is $700 to $73 billion. You're going to have people come in saying it's too much. You're going to have people coming in saying it's too little. As you've already pointed out, Secretary, you have to snap the shock line somewhere. That's a good analogy. And I just appreciate the work that you've done, because anybody can pick holes in it. Anybody can pick holes in it. And to talk about where we're going to be in the next decade, 10 years from now, is pretty interesting, because you have to have people around you nimble enough to know whether we're even going to need ships or tanks, or if it's going to be fought in outer space, or if it's going to be fought in the cyber realm, wherever it's going to be fought. And the truth is, if you screw up, we're all going to have opinions, and we're going to beat the crap out of you. And so you've got to do what's best for this country and best for the people who are served under you. And I just want to thank you for that. Talking about the area of decommissioning, divesting, it's always a challenge. You've always got people in the Senate that don't want to see certain things go away. But I want to talk about a proposal to get rid of ships that, quite frankly, we just put into service. In fact, some of them aren't even totally put into service yet, the littoral combat ships. How much confidence do you have in the analysis that these things just aren't fit for the fight?
I'm very confident, Chairman. Again, I think you hit the nail on the head there. We're looking to acquire capabilities that are relevant in the future fight and survivable. The earlier variants of the ship that you mentioned did not live up to expectations. It's very expensive to maintain, and so we've made the decision that it'd be better to decommission those ships and invest those resources in acquiring capabilities that are more agile and more relevant to the future fight and more survivable.
And those ships have been on the books for, like I said, they're not, I think there's still some in process, but they were designed, what, 20 years ago, 15 years ago? Do you know offhand?
I think it was about 20 years ago, Senator.
About 20 years ago, and it's already changed in 20 years, and pretty dramatically, I might add. I want to talk a little bit about something that's already been visited about, and that's accountability. There's been $3.7 billion spent on a supplemental so far. That's a lot of money. And there's another 16.4 projected to go out. You had said with earlier questions that you're reasonably confident that the weaponry is getting to the Ukrainians, and I get it. You don't have people on the ground there to be able to monitor everything. But the question is, is that, are we making sure that, number one, none of these weapons are falling into the wrong hands? Is there any way to even do that? And then number two, are we making sure that the taxpayer dollars that are being spent are actually making a difference? And I'm talking a significant difference.
Well, first of all, I think they are making a difference, Chairman. And, you know, just look at the battlefield today versus what we were looking at a couple of weeks ago. We see that the Russians the Ukrainians have defeated the Russians around Kyiv, and they've moved back. They're focused on the south and east now, and we expect that to be a bit of a different flavor of fight that employs more long-range fires, a bit more maneuver, and the Ukrainians have asked for what they believe is relevant in that fight. And the department and the Joint Staff under the chairman's leadership there have really hustled to get the capabilities to them as quickly as possible. And we've engaged other countries to do the same, to provide additional capability. But in terms of accountability, we have to depend on the Ukrainians at this point to do the right thing and make sure that they're prudent and careful about how they issue these weapons out and account for these weapons. Again, I engaged the very senior leadership in the country on this issue, and they assured me that this is something that's important and that they'll continue to focus on.
For resupplying, there's a lot of stories about coal production lines, about the fact that we have supply chain issues when it comes to replacing everything that we're shipping into Ukraine, and our allies are shipping into Ukraine too. You said you thought, and don't let me put words in your mouth, that the weaponry could be replaced within the next year with this budget.
All of it won't be replaced within a year. We'll see production lines operate at different speeds, just based upon what they are. We were optimistic about the Javelin the industry being able to increase the production rate in a very meaningful way, and there are decisions to be made about on the Stinger going forward. But in every case, industry has leaned into this and is willing to work with us to increase production as much as possible.
And the dollars in this budget accomplish getting those production lines up, and it accomplishes getting what we need to replace what's being utilized.
And the supplemental that we've asked you for, right, Senator.
Okay. In the opening statements, and this is for you, General Milley, I believe asking for $130 billion in R&D spending. That's $10 billion over 2022, $12 billion over the previous year. Procurement, conversely, is flat at about $144 billion. For years, R&D has been used in mature and prototype technologies like AI, like hypersonics, which are important if we're gonna compete, particularly with China. So when will they become real programs and widely fielded? My concern is that we're prototyping everything to death and it never gets to the field. Is this a concern you have, number one, General? And number two, can you give me any sort of expectations when we might see some of this stuff come to reality?
I think the time window, and again, I agree with your comment about predicting 10, 15 years out, but we do know the broad outlines, or at least we think we know the broad outlines of the future operating environment in this changing character of war. And these programs will need to be online, fielded, in the hands of the force, in the hands of the joint force, inside of 10 years, if we are going to have an opportunity to be superior to our adversaries, specifically China. The programs I'm specifically talking about are artificial intelligence, robotics, hypersonics. There's a wide variety of these technologies that are coming online. But in addition to that, it's more than just the technologies. The joint warfighter concept, we have to get that on the street. We've got to make sure that our organizations, our doctrines, and our talent management are all adjusted. We've got to shift this military from its current state that we're in, and we have to bias the future. We have to make some predictions, as risky as that can be, as to what warfare will look like in the 2030s and 2040s, and we've got to move this organization in that direction. If we fail to do that, we'll be condemning generations to come to be on the losing side of a war. We can do it. We're capable of doing it. This budget puts us on that path.
Okay, and so that's good to know. That's good enough. One last question, then I'll let you guys go. Mr. Secretary, the 2022 National Defense Strategy, it does continue to highlight China as our most consequential strategic competitor and pacing challenge. Is the Russian invasion of Ukraine caused you to rethink the department's priorities laid out in the NDS? And will that have budget implications if the answer is yes?
It is not, Chairman. As you look at the strategy, you see we characterize Russia as an acute threat. And the capabilities that we're going after to support our competition with China are very, very relevant to what we're seeing and potentially will have to do in an extreme case with respect to Russia. And we're a part of the strongest alliance in the world with NATO, It's not only our capability that's relevant there, but it's also the capability of all of our allies. So what we're going after is relevant to both areas of competition.
Thank you both. I just want to acknowledge that Senator Shelby's statement will be a part of the record, and let him know that we missed him here today, and we look forward for him to return very, very soon. Everybody has theories. Everybody has 20/20 hindsight, and I can tell you, just as a statement for the record, some can say that the pullout of Afghanistan was a mistake. I think it was a decision that had to be made that, quite frankly, can be questioned either way. If we'd left troops there, it would have been questioned. If we'd have pulled out troops, we could be questioned. But to say that Putin invaded Ukraine because of the pullout of Afghanistan is the most bizarre thing I've ever heard. It was just his theory, so I got mine. I think the reason Putin invaded Ukraine is because President Trump empowered him to do such. I don't expect a response from you guys on that, but this is absolutely ridiculous. I want to, once again, appreciate your guys' testimony here today. Senators may submit additional written questions, and we ask that you respond to them in a reasonable period of time, in other words, as quick as you can. This Defense Subcommittee will reconvene on Tuesday, May 10th at 10 a.m. to hear from the Secretary of the Army and the Army Chief of Staff. This committee stands in recess.